So, you know, when I moved to Fort Lauderdale from Atlanta, you know, I made a whole group of friends for spearfishing. And, you know, I was there for 2 years, and then I decided to move down to Miami. And when I moved down to Miami, I had to make all new friends. Well, one of the first friends that I made was a guy named Joseph Carter. Now, Joe was a guy from Brazil, Italian, English, Irish, same kind of mix-up as me, but we've had a lot in common, and we really hit it off. And we started spearing, and he's a lot more experienced than me, so I've actually learned quite a bit from him. I was spearing one day with Joe, and Joe said, this trip to Panama has opened up to go with a guy named Diego Santiago. And I wasn't really totally interested in it because, you know, I spend so much money to live on the water here in Miami and to have a boat and to all the gear and everything that I've never really felt the need to like travel, you know, to distant locations. So I was kind of on the fence about it, and it's kind of discounted rate because somebody else kind of bailed out last minute. And, you know, I just kind of got a wild hair up my ass and said, let's do it. And so I agreed to go, and come to find out, you know, it was a whole group of Brazilian guys, all speaking Portuguese. And it was going to be on a Panamanian yacht, 100-foot yacht. So I was the only gringo, and it was quite an interesting experience. Panama! The biggest adventure of my life as of yet. So Joe and I were going on this trip, and it was supposed to be a trip that we were going to go out and shoot yellowfin tuna, something I had been wanting to do, as well as wahoo. And so we were bringing all our float lines and biggest guns, and it was all geared up for a lot of blue water. When we got out there, it turned out that, you know, in talking with the local fishermen and captains, that the tuna just hadn't shown up yet. We were a little early in the season, and that's fine, but the whole trip basically got switched up to reef fishing along the coast. And so, you know, somebody who likes to bring a lot of gear, when you're on a trip like that, you really got to kind of minimalize your gear. And I wish I would have brought some smaller guns, but still did well. But, you know, it's bringing big blue water guns to hunt a reef. It's just not exactly you know, the best thing, but it wasn't the end of the world either. Yeah, so Joe and I started talking about this trip, and he said, there's just this one thing though. It's gonna be really dangerous. Why is it gonna be dangerous? I mean, of course there's danger. You know, we're spearfishing, we're holding our breath, we're diving down in the deeps, we're shooting massive fish in caves and trying to wrestle them out. He said, no, it's more dangerous because of the humans. You know, we're going along the coast, and we're gonna go all the way down to the border of Panama and Colombia, where there's like drug runners and gangs and human trafficking and all sorts of stuff that you just really don't want to run into. And but you know, we should be all right. And okay, we should be all right. Are we gonna have any guns? Well, we'll have our spear guns. Okay, spear guns against AK-47s. You know, shot placement is key. So I flew into Panama City, and Joe had already been there on some business. And the first day it was just him and I, and he took me through downtown Panama City, and it was a really beautiful experience, and it was pretty interesting tour. So we stayed at this hotel for the night. The next day we met in the lobby of the hotel, and we had about 7 or 8 guys there, including Diego and Marsala. And we got in a taxi, grabbed all our gear, loaded up, and headed out to the marina. went to the marina and they launched the boats, and we were basically going to be diving off two 32-foot center consoles. The yacht would be cruising during the day to our next location that we'd be staying at while we were out fishing all day long. Come back, the crew would clean our fish, cook our fish, we could relax. We really didn't have to do anything. There was a whole crew to do basically everything we needed, any laundry or making the beds or cleaning up or serving ceviche after we dove or cooking the grouper for dinner. And it was only men, there wasn't a woman on board.
Señores, estos dos son los mejores capitanes de Panamá.
Chiriquí, chiriquí.
No, de todo Panamá.
Chiriquí.
Here's home for the next 5 or 6 days. 100-foot Panamanian yacht. So the first day we launched out, we headed to the yacht, and we dropped off all our gear, and we headed out to do our first day of spearing. Went out to a series of islands out there right out of Panama City and just started diving. I don't even know exactly where we were. There's many islands around there, and then we went around the islands and straight along the coast, and basically we're hunting anywhere that the land just kind of rose up off the bottom to some peaks. Just hunting whatever we found. We didn't really have any marked spots, which is always an interesting adventure, finding new areas. And it was quite the experience diving with this guy Diego Santiago. So when Joe told me about this guy Diego, he said this guy is a beast of a diver and a spearo. And, said that he goes down 200 feet and shoots fish on a reel gun, and just some of the stories he was telling me about, it was like, wow, this guy's like, the real deal. So he's apparently, like a guide as well as a commercial fisherman. And, I was going to learn a lot from these guys. So I was really happy to go. I think I was actually the least experienced spear fisherman on this trip. And I like that because you learn from people that are better from you. I mean, you really can learn from everyone, but if you want to be great, you got to dive with the greats. We were hitting a bunch of decent sized fish. I shot my first curvina, which was really a plus. Actually, my first shot was a nice curvina. Beautiful, first curvina ever. And that we had for dinner that night. So, we split up into two boats, and our boat was with Diego and Joe and myself. We were going a little deeper than the other boat. Diego likes to go deep. That's typically where the bigger fish are at. That's where he likes to hunt. I didn't really mind because I dive deep as well, and I wanted to learn and to improve on my deep diving skills. But we weren't really finding, the fish that apparently the other boat was, because we met up with them midday and they pulled up next to us, and the fish that they held up were amazing, just massive cuberas that they were finding in like 10 to 15 foot of water. And so, wow, we were obviously tempted to go and hunt some shallower water. So we did for a little bit. Time where the boat kind of got away from us a little bit, and Joe and I were hunting shallow water, and Joe had shot a massive cubera.
¡Hey! ¡Cara! ¡Es tu madre! ¡Aquí! ¡Aquí!
And we couldn't even, the boat was just way out there, just way out, you know. Not that many sharks out there, but you know, you holding up that big fish and trying to call the boat over. You know, you never know what could come along when you got a fish like that in the water. It'd be a great white. Who knows? Marcelo and Joe were kind of off in one direction, and the boat was off in another direction, and I just saw this cave that was just going into the side of a mountain, into the side of this plane. This was pretty close to Colombia and Panama, like I'm way out, secluded no man's land, and I've never seen anything like that. And so the cave was just calling my name. I don't know, I just kept wanting to get closer and closer, and I couldn't even yell to anybody, hey, I'm over here. I mean, they were just so far away, but I didn't want to just not check it out. So I just kept getting closer and closer, and I went into the cave, pretty far into the cave, but there was a point in time where that water was just sucking in and then pushing out, and I just said, you know, this is as far as I need to go. And I turned around, because if I would have disappeared, nobody would have known where I was at. And it was later on in the day, and they wouldn't have been able to wait around for long, and that could have been the end of me. So I pushed on from there, but it was a really exhilarating feeling being inside that cave, knowing that you're like off in some distant land, no civilization other than probably Indians, and the boat and the guys that you're with, they don't even know where you're at. So it was quite interesting. I didn't even have a float. I was had my reel gun. But really cool cave. I wonder what was really even further into that cave.
You need to go to Coiba, Island Coiba fishing.
I thought we were going for tuna and
Yeah, for
wahoo.
big tuna.
I didn't know we were doing reef stuff. I would have brought a smaller gun, you know? Had a big gun. I was looking to shoot a big yellowfin tuna.
You need to come back to April.
Mayo.
Ah,
En mayo.
April.
En mayo y July. Es good for tuna.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. You see that? Se está grabando.
Panama Sub.
No, no, yo.
know, while we were shooting all these small fish, we would come back at night, and the locals would come to the yacht and set up on the back with all their like trinkets and whatnot for sale, and we would give them the fish for free. And so we were kind of doing them a favor by you know, giving them all the fruits of our labor. You want this one? It's beautiful. What it? Get out of it. So even though we weren't shooting amazing fish, which, I mean, they were amazing fish, but even though we weren't shooting massive fish the whole entire time, it was just amazing looking at all the beautiful places that we were diving. I mean, some of the most amazing underwater creatures that I've ever seen. Massive whale sharks, the biggest manta ray that I've ever seen in my life. I was going down on a dive. I look over and just went into Jacques Cousteau mode. That thing was the size of a bus. I could have probably rode it. I mean, it was wild how big it was. But, you know, just everything. Turtles, the kind of fish, just eels. I mean, just wild, wild stuff out there. At one point in time, we came across this old fisherman that was in like a hand-carved canoe. And we pulled up and we started getting some intel from him, asking him, you know, what kind of fish were where, and he kind of seemed to know that, you know, the fish we were looking for were not even anywhere in that area.
¿Dónde está ahorita? Afuera. Afuera. Afuera.
¿Cuánto afuera?
Como 5.
¿Por aquí que sale? Corvina y vaina, nada por ahí.
I mean, I didn't quite understand everything that was said, but you know, the guys I was with seemed pleased about the info, and we paid them with a Coke and a water, and the guys seemed pretty pleased. So they must have had some right information, because, you know, the next spot that we came across was pretty epic.